Brett Strong, Internet Skeptic. Series title, 60 Seconds or Less, where I utterly destroy the world's top Christian apologists in 60 seconds or less. Up next to bat would be Brett Kunkl. He works for Stand and Reason STR. He's a great guy. He's got like 20 kids. He likes to keep up with the Dugars. Actually, he's got 5 kids, but he's a great guy. Great smile. He's very jovial, affable. He's like your buddy next door. Cool guy. One day we're gonna go to Vegas and we're gonna party together. That's how cool he is. But right now, he's one of the definitely top 100 Christian apostles in the world, so I have to include him in my podcast series and utterly destroy him, even though I like Brett a lot. Now, he likes to do a lecture titled, Is the New Testament Reliable? And this, I'm going to just utterly destroy Brett Kunkl on this. Is the New Testament reliable? I'm like, seriously? Brett Kunkl, seriously? Is the New Testament reliable? Let's look at it. Let's start with the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Acts. The first thing you notice about those books is that they're anonymous. They're unsigned. We don't know who wrote them. People guess throughout history who wrote them, but we don't know because the documents stand. They're unsigned, and they're undated, and the origin where they're written, unknown. So they're anonymous. We don't know who wrote them. We don't know when they're written, and we don't know where they're written. And even worse, folks, the main character is a superhero named Jesus of Nazareth. So we got anonymous Gospels in Acts. They're anonymous. We don't know who wrote them, and the main character is a superhero. Bah, 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 bah. Folks, when you hear someone say, I have anonymous documents, they're unsigned, undated, origin unknown, I don't know who wrote them, and the main character is a superhero, bah, bah, bah. That's a huge red flag. They're anonymous, and the main character is a superhero. Brett Kunkl, do you call that reliable? Anonymous documents. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Acts. They're anonymous, and the main character is a superhero. I mean, the guy's born of a virgin. 12 years old, he's the smartest person in the world. 30 years old, he's a superhero character. Flies in the air, disappears through walls, face turns in the sun, walks on water, tells a hurricane to shut up, and the hurricane goes, yes, sir. I'll just shut up and excuse me, and I'll go back to the water. I mean, come on, folks. Anonymous documents, and the lead character is a superhero. Would you call Superman documents reliable, Spider-Man documents reliable, Incredible Hulk documents reliable? Even if you had the outsides cut off and you just had the inside, just the book itself. You were just reading the book itself. Common sense would say, hey man, there's no such thing as a guy putting on a cape and flying in the air saying, up and away, Superman. There's no way a guy's going to have spider webs coming out of his wrist and flying onto, latch onto a building at the Empire State Building and fly in the air off the spider webs. Come on. There's no way a guy's going to get pissed off and turn green, picking up trucks and tanks and throw them to the side. Come on. If you read the Marvel comic books without the outside, just the inside, the meat and potato of it, you would common sense that this is fiction. Now apply that same common sense to the Gospels. Anonymous writers and the lead character is a superhero. Along the lines of Superman, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk. I mean, like I said, the guy walks on water, disappears in the air, appears out of the air, face turns into the sun, raises a zombie from the grave. Come on, this is fiction. So, right off the bat, you can see the New Testament is not reliable. The Gospels and Acts is like Marvel comic books. The lead character is a superhero. Let's go a little further to show you just how unreliable the New Testament is. After Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, anonymous documents with a superhero character as the lead character, let's get that out the way. We know that's fiction. We have 13 letters written by the Apostle Paul, assumed to be written by the Apostle Paul, because we don't have any original letters of anything in the New Testament. So let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that Apostle Paul wrote 13 letters of the New Testament. Well, if you read Romans 7, the first thing you realize is the guy is mentally ill. He basically admits it. Romans 7, the Apostle Paul says that, I'm a wretched man. He said he does evil all the time. He said that he couldn't help but to do evil. He said he tries to do good, but he ends up doing evil. He says that the members of his body, like his, I guess his arms and legs, are making him do evil things. I mean, if that's not a mentally ill guy, I don't know what is. When they say, hey, my arms and legs are making me do evil. Hey, I want to do good, but I end up doing evil. I'm a wretched man. I'm tore down, dude. I'm up, you know? That's a mentally ill guy, and he's admitting it. You know, sometimes mentally ill people, they don't want to admit it, but sometimes they just come out and say, yeah, I'm mentally ill, dude. I'm up. And that's what Apostle Paul was doing in Romans 7. He basically saying, dude, I'm mentally ill. And I'm beeping out the up, as you know. Let's go a little further in this Apostle Paul to show how mentally ill he was. He admits in his writings that he was homeless. He admit that he roamed the streets homeless, naked, hungry, beaten, bruised, scarred. He was whipped. He was stoned. He was in prison. He was shackled in chains. He was forsaken, shipwrecked. I mean, this guy, mentally ill, illness does lead people to be in those situations where they're homeless, naked, hungry, beaten, bruised, scarred, whipped, stoned, shackled, shipwrecked. Just a total mess of a life. All for faith. Not because there was lack of food. Not because there was a war going on. Not because of any of those things. Just because of his faith, he ended up in this situation. That's mentally ill, folks. To say, hey, Apostle Paul, this is him. I'm wretched. I do evil. I'm messed up. And then you look at his life. He himself admits, I'm homeless. I roam the street naked at times, hungry, not enough clothes to clothe me. I've been beaten, I'm bruised, I'm scarred, I've been whipped, I've been stoned, I've been shackled, I've been chained, I've been shipwrecked. My life is a mess. He even admit one time, like, I feel like I'm a joke. I mean, people looked at him, and people had in his letters admit, like, hey, man, dude, Paul, you're messed up, dude. So Brett Kunkl, to say the New Testament is reliable, he trots out the Gospels and Acts, anonymous documents with a superhero character. Bah, 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 red flag, not reliable. Then Brett Kunkl trots out the Apostle Paul, 13 letters. A guy who says Romans 7 that he's mentally ill, basically. That he says in other parts of his letter that he roams the street naked, hungry, beaten, closed, bruised, scarred, whipped, shackled, forsaken, shipwrecked, yada yada. His life is a mess. Do you call a guy who's mentally ill, his writings, reliable? Seriously. Mentally ill guy who's just, his life is a mess. His life is a mess. Do you call a guy who's mentally ill and his life is just a mess reliable? Well, this is what Brett Kunkl is trying to sell to the public. Like, yeah, this is reliable. This mentally ill guy who basically admitted he was mentally ill, who roamed the street in such a tragic way, he's reliable. Come on. Let me just show you how far-fetched Brett Kunkl is reaching to say that the New Testament is reliable. Can you imagine John MacArthur, Pastor John MacArthur, or John Piper, or Mark Driscoll, or William Lane Craig, or J.P. Moreland, or John Lennox, or Greg Kunkl, or Frank Turk? Can you imagine seeing those guys walking around saying, dude, man, I do evil all the time. I'm wretched. My arms, my limbs, they make me do evil. And on top of that, man, I'm homeless and I'm naked and I roam the streets. I'm hungry. I've been beaten. I've been stoned. I've been whipped. I've been shipwrecked. I've been chained like a wild beast. Dude, what would you think if you saw John MacArthur in that shoes? You walked around and you saw this guy in the streets talking about some superhero, and John MacArthur is yelling in the middle of the lungs, hey, this superhero is real. And John MacArthur, he's homeless, he's naked, he's hungry, he's skin and bone, he's been beaten, he's been whipped, he's been stoned, shackled like an animal. What would you call this character, this guy, John MacArthur, sane in that condition? Would you call John Piper If he was running around saying, I'm a wretched man, I'm tore down, man, my arms and limbs make me do evil things, and at the same time, John Piper's preaching in the middle of the streets, wandering around naked, hungry, beaten, scarred, bruised, whipped, chained like an animal, would you call that John Piper in those conditions sane? No, you would look at John Piper and John MacArthur and go, man, there's something wrong with these guys. There's something wrong. I mean, this is not normal. For people to walk around saying, you know, my hands and my limbs make me do evil things. I try to do right, but I end up doing evil. I just do evil all the time. I'm wretched. I'm tore down. And at the same time, they're homeless. They're naked. They've been beaten. They're bruised. They're scarred. They've been whipped. They've been stoned. They've been shackled like an animal, a wild beast. That's not sane, folks. That's not sane. That's insane. That's mentally ill. That's a signs of a mentally ill person. Imagine if you saw your father or your mom or your child roaming the streets saying that they're wretched, mentally tore down, that they couldn't help to do evil, and they were preaching about this superhero character. And they were, and whether it was your mom or your dad or your child, this person, they roam the streets saying, "Hey, this superhero character is real." And at the same time, this loved one of yours, whether it was your mom or dad or child, they're homeless, they're naked, they're so hungry, they haven't eaten so long. You see their bone skeleton. They've been beaten. They got bruises, they got scars all over their body, they've been whipped, stoned, chained like a wild beast. Would you call your mom or dad or your child sane? All for the sake of a superhero. They're like, hey man, this superhero is real, I'm giving my life to this superhero. When you look at your mom or your dad or your child who was out there in public talking about a superhero, at the same time they're wandering the streets, homeless, naked, skin and bones, bruised, scarred all over, whipped. People stone them, laugh at them. They shackle like a wild beast. I mean, would you would look at your mom and dad and child and say, you're mentally ill. You need some help. Come on home. Let's get you checked into a hospital. You need some meds and try to recover. You're mentally ill. But this is what Brett Kunkl is bringing to the table is being reliable. The writings of ramblings of a mentally ill guy. This is insane. Well, let's continue. Let's go to the book of Revelations. If you read the book of Revelations, some have said that the guy was on an acid trip because he's had these visions, and part of these visions, he's on earth and in heaven. There's a beast with 7 heads. I mean, he looked up in heaven. Someone said this guy's on an acid trip. The book of Revelation, the guy who's having these visions, like, hey, this guy's on acid. He's talking about he looks up in heaven. There's a dragon with 7 heads, and there's a war in heaven, and the dragon gets thrown down to earth, and he wipes out 1/3 of the stars in the sky. And on earth, there's another dragon who I guess looks like a part leopard, part bear, part lion. He's got 7 heads. So you got the dragon in heaven with 7 heads, and he gets in a fight, a war in heaven, gets kicked down, knocks out 1/3 of the stars, and he lands on earth. And on earth, there's another beast with 7 heads who's a mixture of a leopard, lion, and a bear. So come on, you call the writings of a guy who's like on acid reliable, Brett Kunkl? This is what you call sane writings? A guy who many would say, some would say, who's on acid, who's tripping so hard he's seeing a beast with 7 heads in heaven and a beast with 7 heads on earth. Wars going on in heaven, getting kicked out of heaven, knocking down 1/3 of the stars. And another beast on earth who's got 7 heads, who's part lion, part leopard, part bear, 7 heads. So we got a dragon with 7 heads and another beast with 7 heads. You call this reliable? Folks, let's do a quick overview. The gospel in Acts, anonymous, bam, bam, bam. Anytime you hear some anonymous and then the lead character is a superhero, then bam, 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 red flags. That is not reliable. And then when you try it, and right after that, 13 letters from a mentally ill guy, bam, 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 red flag. That is not reliable. The writings and ramblings of a mentally ill guy is never reliable. Common sense. And then right after that, you throw in the book of Revelation. The guy, some would say, is on an acid trip. Do you call the writings of a guy on an acid trip reliable? Beast in heaven, 7 head. Beast on earth with 7 heads. Wars going on in heaven. 1/3 the stars get wiped out. Bam, bam, bam. A guy who some would say was on acid a trip is not reliable in his teachings or writings or beliefs. And that's it. That's the entire New Testament. Now, throw in, we still got the letters of Jude, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, 1st and 2nd Peter, James, and some would say Hebrews. In Hebrews. Let's throw in Hebrews. So we got Jude, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, 1st, 2nd Peter, James, and Hebrews. Well, mainstream scholarship would say, hey, like Bart Ehrman's and those guys, they would say those are forgeries. All those letters, they're forgeries. So we got the Gospel in Acts, anonymous writers, and the lead character is a superhero. We got 13 letters from a mentally ill guy. We got a guy that some would say the book of Revelation, he was on acid. And we got a bunch of letters all deemed as forgeries by mainstream scholarship. Brett Kunkl, the New Testament, no matter how you look at it, divvy it up, is not only unreliable, it's just should be taken as pure entertainment. I mean, like I say, folks, there's nothing wrong with believing in superheroes. So Brett Kunkl, I say it to everyone, Christians, it's okay to believe in superheroes. If you want to base your life on a superhero named Jesus, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. I respect that. Just don't be dogmatic. I mean, kids believe in Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, and Tooth Fairy. And they live their lives just fine as kids. So as an adult, you can really believe a superhero is real. It's okay. And you could still live your life fine. Just don't be dogmatic. Just like little kids aren't dogmatics in their Santa Claus beliefs and Tooth Fairy beliefs and Easter Bunny. Adults, Christians, Brett Kunkl, just don't be dogmatic. Enjoy your fairy tale superhero. It's okay. Life is tough. If you need a superhero to make your life feel better and make you feel good about life because life is hard, it's okay. Believe. Just don't be dogmatic because, as I've shown, the New Testament is not reliable. Bam, 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 bam. The entire New Testament is one big red flag. Whether we're talking about a superhero, whether you're talking about a mentally ill guy, whether we're talking about a guy some would say is on an acid trip, or whether we're talking about letters that mainstream scholarship said, man, these are flat out forgeries, dude. The New Testament is not reliable. And that's it. Brett Kunkl has been utterly destroyed in 60 seconds or less. Till next time, signing off. Brett Strong.